Okay, Pirate, I'm missing the weather forecast for this. Gonna do something, do it now, please. Thank you. Well, it's not close enough to be heard on the input, or it's too weak. I got a call sign that time. K4EXX. Hey Jeff, what's going on? It's you, me, and one other tester, as far as I know of.
He's got a good name, Motorola. But anyway, we're just chilling out. We'll stay up a little bit later on tonight and watch a few more documentaries about history, about trains. I learned a whole lot.
Yeah, I got you. Expect Scott's done. Tuckered out, went to bed.
Been over here for a while. Yesterday, it's funny how you trade information. You learn something you already know enough about it. That's it. I'm out here and down the living room. Hey, found my new radio out.
Yeah, I kind of sitting with the wife in a separate room, of course, just making sure she's sleeping comfortably. And I can hear her snore from here, so so far so good. What kind of radio are you testing? What's the new radio?
But outside of that, I'm going to go ahead and get back to watching something. Take care of yourself. And we'll talk to you another time.
Yeah, your signal's starting to drift too. It's getting a bit more noisy, so it's probably appropriate right about now. I'll be around if you need anything. K4EXX.
Alright, you take care. K4EXX, I'm out of here.
Uh-huh.
K4ARX, K4ARX, K4EXX. Just wanted to say hi, will you?
Well, doggone, there's a person I haven't talked to in ages. How are you doing, Don?
Sitting around watching the clock. I got about an hour and a half until bedtime.
Yeah, I didn't know you were still doing night watch. Hi. Yeah, that's good. The only time I ever hear you is on the random net, maybe once or twice in a week. You've been doing all right.
Yeah, doing pretty good. Doing pretty good. I was doing some research on radios. I'm hoping to get me a HF radio somewhere, maybe in the next year. Because right now all I've got is VHF and UHF. And Yaesu, I'm kind of leaning towards Yaesu. And the 991 will do HF and UHF and VHF. But the Sun 7300 and some other Yaesu radios, they only do HF. So I'm kind of torn on what I might want to get. Go ahead.
Well, I suppose that entirely depends on what you want to do. You want to look satellites? It'd be all mode for, well, really HF, VHF, and UHF. Do you want everything in one radio and not worry about the one in front of you there and replace it with the, the multi-mode radio, or what do you really want to do?
Well, this radio is a TYT mobile. It's actually, I think, more or less made and designed to go into a vehicle. And so I could put it in a vehicle and get me a regular base station, like a 991 or a 710, TDX 101, something like that. And I would want something in the house that I could do, talk to the regular repeaters with, and something that maybe if I wanted to, I could try to talk to somebody long distance, across the country or maybe even out of the country. Go ahead.
Yeah, you could do that at home just fine. I didn't know if you were still driving or not. That would be a good thing to do, is put that one in the vehicle and keep the 991 at the house.
Oh yeah, I'm still driving. I think I can probably have for another 10 years anyway. In fact, recently I had my driver's license upgraded to the star to jump through a few hoops, but it wasn't too bad. And that done. This radio would work good in a vehicle. I don't do 10 meters, but it'll do repeaters, and I could program repeaters in it, on it. And then I need something in the house that I can talk to repeaters, and maybe do some Jeff too. So, what kind of base station do you have?
Well, currently the one I'm using right now is a Motorola Astro Spectra. Maybe you remember what those are, and it's just VHF only. And I don't have any HF here at home. I've tried listening on the shortwave bands and similar ham radio bands on HF with a shortwave receiver or two. And there's so much noise in RFI over here downtown in the building, it's almost impossible to hear anything, let alone do anything on HF radio. So pretty much stick to the low VHF, the VHF, UHF, GMRS, 900 megahertz when it works. And I can listen to 1.2 gig, but I don't have anything to operate on that particular band.
Yeah, well, I've got a VHF or UHF antenna up on my chimney, but for high frequency, I was thinking about one of those, what do they call it, J-pole or wire antennas. Because I've got some trees that go up in my yard. They must go up 150, 200 foot high. And using a wire antenna for HF. Go ahead.
Yeah, that'll do you just fine. I don't think you need anything over 50 or 100 feet, honestly. It'd be too high, or it could be too low. If you put it close to the ground, that would be a NVIS or NVIS, near vertical incident skywave, I think. Anyways, that'd be for close-in contacts on HF, and the further you go up, it would change your radiation a bit. If you go up too high, it may hamper you quite a bit. So I'd say anywhere between 50 and 100 feet would be good for HF radio.
that'd be good. Yeah, I know Scott's got a 991A, and he loves it. 991A will do HF and culture with the repeaters too. Go ahead.
A1A Detroit Avenue. Oh, it's my turn. Yeah, they seem to have a pretty good setup, Scott and all the others. Pine trees and whatnot, that'd be okay. Make sure you got a good grounding system and a lightning arrestor too, so you can save that radio in the summer, in the springtime.
Yeah, what I do when the lightning comes, I'm sitting right here and I'm in the living room looking right out a picture window, and I keep an eye out for storms. If I see it lightning get close to me, Tommy gets down here to the Pocahontas State Park, which is about 3 miles from me or 4. Gets down that close, I just unhook my radio. I unhook the antenna. I've got the same antenna that Scott's got. In fact, Scott and Kenny, I think the guy's name. Scott and Kenny came over one Sunday and put my antenna up for me. Because I'm too big to climb up the ladder. I would probably just bend the ladder. So they came over one Sunday and installed my antenna. And they did a great job on that. Go ahead.
It's protection for your equipment. So when you're gone, unless you decide to unplug while you're gone, that's different. Some people like to throw the coax out the window and then string it back in when they get back. Unless it's a second floor window, that'd be kind of difficult. Or you can string it up and what have you. But protection for while you're gone. Lightning goes a lot farther than 3 miles. Some of the deadliest lightning goes out 10 and 12 miles ahead of the storm. And that's where strikes come out of the blue. So 3 miles, probably not enough warning.
What do you think about one of these lightning arresters that
Just mention that, Don.
You see advertised every once in a while. It goes in the line, in the cable line, in the connection between the antenna and the radio, and then of course you run the ground wire off of the lightning arrestor out and down to the system. You think a lightning arrestor would be a good idea?
Yeah, that's a good idea. I wish I'd thought of that. Yeah, lightning arrestor and grounded good. Ground your station very good. Get rid of the ground loops.
Yeah, therefore, and something I had. Wait a minute.
This is amateur radio, not CB.
I just changed frequency there for a minute. I hit the wrong button. I hadn't thought about it, but I don't leave the house very much. But sometimes we do go over to one of my daughter's for Thanksgiving, and we don't have any storms in. But if I leave the house now in the summer, and I'm going to be gone for any length of time, it might be a good idea to disconnect the cable from the radio. Go ahead.
Am I talking the W4SCL or K4EXX? I'm confused. Yeah, that might be a good idea. One way or the other. Depends on how much you want to spend. If you don't want to spend anything, just toss the coax out and leave. Then bring it back in when you get home.
Those lightning arresters that go in line, they're not that expensive, I don't think.
Yes.
So I might look into getting one of those. I hadn't thought about it. I know I got some ground rods that you drive in the ground, and I was going to run a separate ground wire from the metal pole that my antenna's on. Just run that straight down to the ground, just on the metal pole. I haven't done that.
Why not?
I've had a bunch of people say, "Oh, you can't do that. You gotta run the ground wire over near your meter box and all that stuff. Your outside meter." I just want a simple ground to ground the antenna. I don't think it would hurt anything. It doesn't have anything to do with my receiving or transmitting. Go ahead.
Except for the ground loops you're not eliminating, you're creating more ground loops. Yeah, I've driven 8-foot ground rods, copper, into the ground, just a few inches under the surface, and then bonded to that. And I've done it at the base of a tower, 3 different places, and probably more. The guy that anchored that thing had probably 6 or 8 foot I-beams, and they were about 1.5 2 foot thick, probably about as wide, and that was the guy wire points, anchors, and then right there at those anchors, 1 ground rod a piece to good measure. We used an electric jackhammer to push that down in there. You didn't need a special attachment. You just put the hammer right over the ground rod, and that pushed it right in easily. This was Georgia clay, mind you. It's not very easy, but the hammer made it easy. So as many ground points as you can get rid of those ground loops, and to your meter box as well.
Okay, that's something I'll look into. Right now, I don't have anything grounded. I don't even have my radio grounded. That's something I need to get on when the weather improves this spring, is get some stuff grounded just to be on the safe side. Appreciate the advice there.
I don't know what kind of power supply you have. The power supply that I have is a 3-prong. So it's 110, probably already grounded that way. And the radio is powered from the power supply, so presumably that's enough ground for the moment. All my antennas, if you might remember, they're indoors anyway, so if the strike came in, it'd have to come through the system and then get to the radio finally. It wouldn't be the first thing that it would hit.
Yeah, I have a power supply. It's not a very big one, but it does 13.8 volts.
Yes.
It has a meter on the front of it, and I can switch from amps to voltage.
Wonderful.
Back to amps. I keep it on voltage. And it has a place in the front of it where you can put a car charger type plug, what you call cigarette lighter plug in it, that I could use, to, I don't know, charge a phone or something. And in fact, when I go to bed, I don't even turn my radio off. I just reach over and flip the switch on the power supply. And when I do that, everything goes off. It's not a real expensive power supply. Somewhere close, between $80 and $100, I think is what it costs. And he's doing a good job. It doesn't roar or make any noise. I guess it gets warm if I talk too long, but I haven't had any problem with it. It's doing a good job. Go ahead.
Somebody's watching YouTube. Help us take a survey. You can hear the music in the background on this radio. That's funny. Yeah. Well, mine works similar. I don't have all the meters and such. I don't have the extra accessory port on the front. It's just an old commercial type power supply. Just a single switch and a set of screws in the back, one for each. That's it. I can turn this one off, but this one stays on 24/7, 365 right here.
I'm trying something new. Can you receive me now?
Email william.k4EXX@gmail.com. On the air. I got nothing out of it.
Yo, William, I'm checking something. I'm on a different radio. Can you copy this radio?
Oh, God. Are you related to Scott? Yeah, perfectly. Loud and clear. I didn't even know you changed it until you said so. Motorola?
This is just a 10-watt handheld kid radio. It's my handheld. It's an 8 kid radio, and it's on high power, I think. Yeah, some high power. High power is 10 watts. The TYT I was talking to you all is 50 watts. And I'm just sitting here holding this thing in my hand. It has one of those little military type antennas, the ones you can fold over like a tape measure. And this is what I used when I first got my license. And then after that, I took the rubber duck type antenna off and hooked my antenna up on the root to it until I got the TYT. I was using this radio with a roof antenna, but I'm not using a roof antenna now. This is inside. Go ahead.
Yeah, it sounds almost just like the other radio, the 50 watt. No problem at all. As long as you don't move with that, you're fine. I forget how far you are from the repeater, but no matter. It does fine.
Yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with the south side any, but over here where 288 goes into 95.
I know where you are.
I'm about 2 miles west of 95, and I'm about a half a mile south of 288, kind of in the corner there. And I'm about 2.5 or 3 miles north of downtown Chester. Go ahead.
Well, for a 10 watt TID radio, it's doing a fine job. Burn your eyes out, kid.
Okay, well, stand by, man. I'm going to switch back to the other one.
I wonder if he was the one that was testing his radios earlier without saying a word.
K4EXX, K4EXX. I'm back on the TYT now. Go ahead.
K4EXX, K4ARX. Yep, there it is, and it's doing a fine job again. Absolutely no problem. You're set up except for HF now. So, well, you get the HF radio, you'll be ahead of me again.
Yeah, this will work on the UHF too. I know the 88 machine, they were having trouble with the repeater, and they were going on the 4-something, 4, I forgot what it is without looking at it up.
442.550.
Anyway, they were doing the nets on the ultra high frequency, because that was the repeater they have works on either one. Go ahead.
Well, you're half right. Yeah, I noticed when they made that change some time ago, and it's been working fine for me for a while. Here lately, it's not been doing all that great. I don't know if conditions changed or if there's ice on the antenna, if the antenna's moved at the repeater site in the wind, what have you. Not having near as much luck as I used to. So you may not hear me on the UHF nets as much as you will on the VHF, or the difference between the RATS Aries net and the Metro Richmond Aries net. Always got to think about that.
Have you tried the Simplex net on the first and third Friday? The first Friday it's at 7, and the second Friday, which will be coming up, the third Friday, which will be coming up in a week or so, is at 9 o'clock, or 9 p.m., and Scotty runs it. And the Simplex net, it's fun. It's fun to see how many people you can hear. I can hear about half the people that come on it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've tried that several times with the Spectra here and with the Kenwood TR9000. 2 separate antennas, 2 separate locations. And I'm in a hole over here in Chaco Valley, as you probably already know. And it's almost impossible for me to hear most stations. I can talk to Phil once in a while, CTO, and he is mobile from his place in my direction. His office is, a few blocks from here. It's not that far. So the closer he gets, the easier it is to hear from him in the car. But for the most part, no. I may have been heard before, but I can't hardly hear anybody over here with the indoor antennas.
I was just wondering if me and you could talk Simplex, like on the 146490. I don't know if we can talk Simplex or not. Because I'm not that far from the river. And the river goes right up to where you live. We probably could talk on Simplex.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain you're farther out than most of these guys. You're definitely farther out than Phil from where I live. I'm pretty sure. We can try it, but I won't guarantee you'll be able to hear me.
Yeah, well, we don't have to do it tonight. I'll catch you one afternoon or something when you're not busy, and we'll try that just for the fun of it.
Yeah, that'd be fine. Sometime after lunch one day. I'm a little tied up tonight, kind of babysitting, so just want to make sure things are okay.
Yeah, Roger that. Oh, one other thing I wanted to ask you about. When sometimes I'm just sitting around monitoring your radio, and I'll hear you talking with someone, and I've got a great signal on you and a great signal on them. But in order to hear you, I have to turn my volume up. And then when they come on, I have to turn it down real quick because they come in way too loud. And then when you talk, I have to turn it back up. Of course, when me and you're talking, it doesn't matter. You know, I can turn it to where I can hear you good, and that's just fine. But it seems like when I hear you talking with somebody else, your volume coming in on my radio is low. Like I say, I have to turn you up, and then when they get ready to come on, I have to turn you down to listen to them. Go ahead.
Well, I imagine it's a few things, actually. I don't know if this radio is set up for wide FM or narrow FM. I don't know if your radio is set up for wide or narrow. I don't know if theirs is set up for wide or narrow. And that can make the difference. If you can see on the screen, it may show NFM, or it may show FM only, or WFM. That'll make a difference.
Yeah, I keep both my radios, the handheld and the PYT. If they're on wide, somebody told me one time you could better reception on wide. You could pick up more or something. I don't know. I've just always had it on wide. I haven't tried it on anything else.
You know, one day when you hear some conversations on this machine, just hit the switch there and try to understand the difference. I think the repeater itself is wide FM, so it's probably not necessary. I don't think it's necessary on this spectrum to run narrow yet. It's not required. It may be required on 70 centimeters. I think it is required on GMRS for those to be narrow FM. It kind of saves space on the spectrum.
Yeah, I got a GRM, a General Mobile Radio Service license, and a couple of Battle Bang handhelds. And I didn't like it. Me and my grandson-in-law were playing with it, and he'd go out in my backyard, we could talk just fine. But one day they left in a car going about 4 miles from where I live, and so I had him to take one of them with him and talk to me. He has a license too. And after they got about a mile away, I couldn't pick him up any longer. So, they were only good for about a mile. Go ahead.
It's just like this service here. It's better to have an outdoor antenna anyways. It puts you a GMRS antenna, or you find the right comet antenna, you've got 2 meters, 70 centimeters, and GMRS on the same expanded antenna. And you'll definitely talk 4 miles with a base radio. I've talked to a couple guys from here down to the water treatment plant, if you remember where that is. They had those bubble pack radios you get at Walmart, and no outside antenna, but at least an antenna on a ground plane, or a magnet mount antenna on a cake pan, really. And I could talk to them. They could hear me fine. I could hear them fine. They had 2 watts or less, and I was running 45 watts, just in case.
I think the little handhelds, they don't put out very much wattage. 2.5 or 5 or something. I do know they ain't kind of a mobile or base station type or a radio, kind of like my TYT. That's GMRS, and they do put out 50 watts. So 50 watts might make a difference with an outside antenna. And there is a repeater. There's one at Chippenham. I had to email the guy that runs the repeater and get his permission to use it, and he emailed me back and gave me the code and the permission to use the repeater. But with a little handheld, I couldn't reach the repeater no way, so I just forgot about it. I'm just sticking to the ham unit. And I'm thinking about getting me a nice CB radio too, just to see if I can listen to some truckers going up the highway. Go ahead.
Yeah, K4EXX, K4ARX. And when it's necessary, I turn mine on here. I've got a few. And I'm right next to the interstate, so I can hear them as it come and go, especially the big radios. I don't see any reason. If that TYT is a Part 90 mobile, there's no reason why you couldn't put in GMRS repeater frequencies. It should already be wide open and ready to go.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that. All right, I got about an hour before I go EOT or into tour, whatever you want to call it. And I appreciate you coming back to me. I hadn't talked to you in a while. Anytime you got insomnia and you're up at night, give me a holler. I'm around. So have a good evening. And what you say you were babysitting? I hope I didn't wake your never know you're babysitting up. So have a good evening. Step your threes to you. K4ARX. This is K4EXX. I'm going to be clear on your panel.
Yeah, there's no worries about that. She's in the other room. For the most part, she can't hear what's going on. Even if she could, I think she's out of it. She's had some NyQuil, and she wanted to get some rest, and she keeps a tablet in front of her and listens to whatever she wants to listen to, and sometimes headphones, sometimes not. So, but I think she's pretty much out of it tonight just to get some rest, and I can't blame her. Just she needs the rest. She really hasn't gotten it lately, and that's all there is to it. All my noise is in here in the other room, and if she needs me, she can find me, and that's the way it works. I'll catch you later. 732 you. K4EXX, K4ARX. Okay, Mr. Pirate. 30 plus minutes of activity on the MRA. Are you satisfied that you heard something now? Oh, Lee. Looks like it. You know, one of these days, somebody's going to need me to help them do something, and I'm going to have the right answers. And maybe all will be well. It's nice to be needed. One of these days, whenever that happens. Maybe it'll never come. I don't know.